Hi, this is Miss Wade again. Today we are going to be going over the last step of the science fair project, and that is putting together the display board. So in your parent letter and also in the back of the orange packet, there is this diagram, and this shows you it's a guide really to how your presentation board should look. Now, if you need to move some of these things around to get everything to fit, that's okay. Just try to have some kind of order to it. So we're going to go ahead and get started by looking at the rubric. Okay, so for presentation board, all of the following is true. 1, your presentation board includes a title, hypothesis, materials, procedure, analysis, and conclusion. And 2, your presentation board is interesting to look at and easy to read. And finally, 3, your presentation board does not contain any voids or empty areas. All right, so now we know what we need to get full points. Now let's take a look at how to tackle this. So the first thing you're going to need is something to use as a presentation board. There's a few options for this. You can get them at the store. They usually range in price from about $3 to $7 depending on what you get. They come in different sizes. I recommend getting the smallest size. Our first graders are going to have to carry these around. They're going to have to carry them to the classroom and then from the classroom to the multi-purpose room. So we want to make sure it's a size that they can handle. Also, if you get the smaller size, it's not as much space to fill, and that makes putting it together a little bit easier because you don't have to figure out how to fill all of those voids. All right, the third option, which is what I'm going to do, is to use file folders. Just your basic file folder. This is a letter size. If you want to do this and you need some folders, let me know or let your teacher know. I'm sure they can get you a couple folders. You need 2 of them. And what you do is you open them up and you just lay one on top of the other, and you're going to tape it or glue it or both in the middle. So you can adjust the width of the center by doing this. If you need more space, make it wider. If you don't want as much space, make it narrow. I'm going to make it narrow for mine. And I'm just going to go ahead and tape this down a little. You're going to want to probably glue it and tape it, and you're going to want to tape both sides. And once you've done that, you have a presentation board. It's going to sit up like this. And next we just need to fill it with all of the information. Again, you want to refer to this diagram, and all of the information you need to fill your display board is in your orange book. You've been putting it together over the last several weeks, and you just need to compile it into your display board and make it look nice. So I'm not a fan of this color, so I'm going to put a different color down. One thing I like about using the file folders is construction paper that you get at the store, dollar store, or wherever fits really nicely in the folders. You don't need to cut it, and it looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and tape that down. I recommend you glue it. I'm just taping it for purposes of time. So you would glue this down. And that, I think, looks a little bit nicer. Just make sure you don't put the paper over where it folds, because that's going to make it hard to fold. And then I also took some orange and I cut a little bit off one side and a little bit off the top. So when I put it down, it creates like this picture frame look, which I think adds interest to my project. And remember, it needs to look interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and just tape these down. Again, you would glue. And I think it just makes it look kind of fun. All right, now to fill in all of the different sections, you have two options really. You can type everything up and print it. I think that looks really nice and that might take less time. Parents, it is fine if you type it for them. If you want to maybe let them type some of it, but you type the rest, that might be a good compromise. It might be frustrating for some of them to type everything because that's a lot of typing at this age where they're still really learning where the letters are on the keyboard. So, but you can't, so don't feel bad if you are typing it for them. And the other option is to write it. And that's fine too. So on this one, I just wrote it with a marker and it looks just fine. And here's one where it's typed. Another way to add interest is to make a fun border, cut it out. This is in a cloud. You could do zigzags or something like that. They make fancy scissors to cut fancy edges. You can use those. My board is going to be pretty simple. So the first thing it has is a title. That's the title for your project, and that can be something fun. It needs to relate to what you did, but it can be clever, it can be funny. I'm calling my project Glowing Fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and start laying everything out. So there's my title, next is my question, then results. This is where you put your data. If you did a graph, if you did a picture, for me, it was, I took a photograph and printed it out. And then underneath that is your conclusion. And I'm not gonna glue anything down yet. I'm gonna wait until everything is on the whole display board, and then I'm gonna glue it down when I know everything is where I want it to go. So now we're gonna take a look at this side, which over here is the research and hypothesis. Just a tip, the research is a lot of words. Remember, the research includes your source, new vocabulary, I'm still curious about, and important facts. It's a lot of words, so you might use a smaller font, or if you write it, you're gonna have to write pretty small to get that to fit, unless you use a bigger board, in which case you may wanna keep it big so it fills up the space. And then underneath that, I'm going to put my hypothesis. And that's all I need on that side. And then on the other side, I need my materials and my procedure. Now, if you took pictures of the steps, that's where you would put it, is with your procedure. And I had to play with mine quite a bit to get it to fit. But what I ended up doing was I put my first step and my second step together, and then I put the picture of the first step there, picture of the second step there, and then I put my third step and my fourth step together. And picture there, and picture there. So I might play with this more. If it was for my final project, I would want it to be a little bit less busy maybe use smaller pictures or a little bit smaller font. But for the purposes of this video, I'm happy with it. So now I'm going to double check that everything is where I want it to be. And if it looks good, then I'm going to tape it down. Now, I'm going to ask myself, is it interesting to look at? Is it easy to read? And are there any voids? Now, I would say that these are kind of voids. Really not, though. You could leave that blank because it's nice to have a little bit of empty space. But if you wanted to fill that in, you could. I just cut out some pictures of glow sticks from the bag that the glow sticks came in, and I could glue those on there. That makes it a little bit more interesting also. If you wanted to go a step further and tape on, if you have any materials from your experiment that you could use, you could even go so far as to tape those onto your project somehow or glue them on, and that makes it interesting also. Another option, if you have permission, is to take a video and have a parent help you make a QR code of you doing the experiment. You could put that over here and people could scan it. So that makes it a little bit more interesting also. That is completely up to you. If you want to do that and you're not sure how, see me after school and I will happily go through the steps on that for you. And now that everything's in place, all I do is glue it down and I am all done. The final project will include both the presentation board and your orange notebook, your journal. That needs to go with it also. So you're going to bring in both the board and the orange book. Both of those will be on display in the multipurpose room. And don't forget, you have to present this in front of the class. So make sure you practice talking about your experiment. You're not reading everything on your board. You'll have your board displayed and you're going to just talk to us about what you did and what you found out. That's a good thing to practice at home before you have to do your presentation. All right, I feel like I have gone over everything. Again, if you have any questions, please contact your teacher. They'll be more than happy to help you. And as always, have fun and good luck.